Hi, and good evening on the right channel now. Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about your choices in training, the pitfalls, and some rough costs as well. Um, so I'm going to go through the main things first, and then we'll look at where we go from there. So first thing is self-training, so completely train yourself. I think that's virtually impossible without some sort of input, but we can talk about it a bit more in a minute. The next one would be buying in services. So it could be again self-training, but buying in services. So buying in a website for the knowledge, maybe using a buddy, which is free for practice, or one-to-one training when you feel you need it, whether it be for part 2, part 3, etc. Pay as you train, so similar to the buying in services, but you're paying more regularly probably, and you're paying probably the one trainer. Whereas when you're buying services, you can jump around a bit if you want to. You can pay someone completely upfront for the whole package. So it could be a national driving school, local driving school, etc. But again, we'll come on to that in a minute. So your options for that type of training would be independent trainer. So someone like me that's not affiliated to a driving school. So we would train you, we would then advise you on whether you go independent or go to a driving school. And we're not tied into that driving school, so you wouldn't be tied into going to a particular driving school, but we can probably recommend driving schools to you if you want to take out a franchise to begin with to learn your trade and get your feet. Then you're looking at a small school that's someone who's not a trainer. I know a few people that watch this are training with members of the family and things like that are driving instructors. That's absolutely fine. That's certainly being done more, and quite often those trainers or mentors, as we tend to call them, because they're not full-time trainers, they're potentially bringing someone into their business because they've got too much work at the moment, particularly family members or a friend or relative or something like that. That can be certainly an option. It's a much more relaxed option. It's probably someone you know as well. So that's certainly an option. And those people tend to be supported by someone like me in the background, guiding them on what to do and how to do it and that type of thing. We call that the mentoring system. There's a small school that has a trainer. So maybe, when I say small, anywhere between 1 or 2 franchisees up to probably 20 or 30, and just one trainer. We'll talk about the advantages and disadvantages of all these things in a minute. And then you've got the large schools, which most of you know about. When you Google, the first thing that's come up is the national schools, isn't there? And certainly you could go and train with those guys. Certainly, and then the thing is with a lot of these, you want to be paying as you train. Oh, someone's grumpy. Fair enough. So you want to be. Let's go through the list again and just add some more meat to the bones. Okay, so if you're self-training, then you're going to be using buddies, you're going to be using websites like ours and things like that. And that's certainly quite a flexible way of doing things, certainly if there's no one in your area and you think you're quite self-disciplined. I think the advantage to having a trainer is that they will support you and help you. Lee says that's a mistake. He wasn't being grumpy. That's all right, Lee. You'll let off this time. Do me own grumpy face. Going across the screen. Anyway, serious business. Okay, so self-training, you have to be very. You have to be self-analyzed. You have to know when you're going to require training, when you're going to need help, and you're going to have to be willing to put in that work yourself and really look after yourself and make sure you're doing the right things. We certainly have about half a dozen people a year that self-train just using the site, and they don't take any other training at all. But you have to be a certain type of person for that. So you have to be self-disciplined. You have to be willing to put in that work, and you need to know yourself quite well. And it depends on your previous backgrounds as well. If you have a previous background in some sort of one-to-one training, ski instructors, anything like that, then you may be able to do it to a certain degree. But the ADI system is different from any other system that I'm aware of. But again, websites like ours can be there to help you. I would always say, whatever option you take, then look at paying as you go rather than an upfront fee. The danger of an upfront fee, of course, is that if you would choose an upfront fee and you didn't get on with the trainer, and this can certainly be the case in a small organisation like a small school, for example, then you've got nowhere to go with that training. They've just got one trainer, you've got nowhere to go with it. So paying all your money up front can be a danger because you could basically have no options to get out. So you've got to be very careful of that. If you do it at the national school, you've probably got more trainers to pick from, but possibly not in your area. So you may have to travel out of area to be able to take on that additional training because they probably won't come to you. Also, if you go for an independent trainer, again, if you pay all the money up front, you have got that one person and you can't get out. So I would really go towards the pay as you train. There's certainly people that I train that do pay up front, and we do an offer for upfront payment, but we do have a payback system, and they know how much that is. And if they stop training at any point, then they get a refund for what they haven't used and all that sort of stuff. So that comes onto whatever system you use. Certainly look at what contracts there is. If you're paying as your training, you really don't want a contract, because then it's easy to get out of, etc. If you're paying up front, whether it be 10 hours of 10 block or unlimited lessons or 40 hours or whatever it happens to be, then make sure you know the T's and C's and make sure that you can get out of it. This, you only have to go on to Facebook or whatever, and you won't take you very long to find lots of people that have paid a lot of money up front and then not enjoyed the training, decided it's not for them, and can't get the money back, basically. Or even worse, or as bad, they will pay all that money up front. Seems like a really good deal at the time, and then extra come to someone like me and do extra training at £60 an hour, and that soon racks up the cost, doesn't it? So it's pretty important to do that research and to make sure that you, whichever way you go to do it, whether it be a big school, local school, national school, whatever, is to check the contracts, check who you're going to be training with. At least have a couple of sessions with that person before you decide to pay all the money up front. But be very aware of what you're getting for money up front even, and what your get out clauses are, because it's nothing wrong with paying up front. I do it myself. I charge people that way sometimes, but you really need to know how you can get out and what the deal is, basically. So if you decide not to do it anymore, you fall down and break both legs and an arm, you can't do it for 6 months. Are you going to get your money back? Are you going to get extended? How does it all work, really? Because a lot of people put their money up front and then find it's actually not ideal for them, etc. So be very careful of that. What was I going to say then? Don't know. So upfront fees aren't a bad thing necessarily, but you need to know. Quite often they seem quite good deals. So the cost of training to be a driving instructor can be anything. Taking out the test fees, for example, can be anything from £0 to about £4,000. With some of the good independent companies will charge you about £4,000. That'd be good. £4,000 for an unlimited course. But again, you need to make sure, what does unlimited mean, because some of them restrict you to 60 hours and stuff like that. So you've got to be very careful of what that means and how you can get refunds and all that sort of stuff without repeating myself, because this is a trap people fall into a lot. So just be aware of that, really. Be aware that you need to be able to get out if you can do. So it could be £0 to £4,000, averaging around 2.5 for the required hours. Normally that includes 60 hours. May not be 1-to-1, to check that out. There's nothing wrong with 2-to-1. Actually, I do it quite a lot and it really works well, but you shouldn't be paying when you're sat in the back, basically. So if you do 1-to-1 training, or you pay someone as you go and you can sit in the back of other sessions, then why not? It's free learning, isn't it? You're not practicing, but you're learning from the other person, etc. So see if that's an option. Is it 2-to-1? If it's 2-to-1, what's the cost? Work out the hourly cost. So if you get a 40-hour contract for £2,000, which is quite a common one, but it's 2-to-1, then that's going to be £100 an hour. If 10 hours of that is in classroom, then that's 30 hours. That's 15 hours in the front for £2,000. Don't know what that is off the top of my head. £120 an hour, something like that. Doing it independently or sourcing the things as you need it, you can pay a lot less than that. So also think about the overall cost as opposed to the cost of the package. And it's very difficult to know how much the overall cost is going to be, because you don't know if you're going to qualify with this company or not. So that comes on to doing a bit of research. So whoever you go with, whether it be an independent like myself, whether it be a national school like one of the big national schools, and everything in between, get references. Make sure you're able to talk to the trainer, as I said earlier. Make sure you're able to talk to previous customers, and we're talking quite recent customers. Google them. Go onto Google, Facebook. They're brilliant places now, aren't they? Google. You can find out what experiences people have had. But just because some people have bad experience, it doesn't mean that you're going to. We all buy stuff off Amazon or eBay, or go to a TripAdvisor thing that some people have slagged off, because some people just moan about everything, don't they? So take an overview, take a sort of a decision on it, really. As I said before, it's worth reiterating. Just check contracts. Quite a lot that will offer you a good offer. When you first go and see them, it's £2,500, and then every week you get an email and £100's coming off every time, ends up at £900. I think, why is that? Well, they do want someone on their books. A lot of the big companies, particularly, and even the small boys, don't make money on training. It sounds a lot of money, £2,500, but If you look in the private sector, we've been looking at some courses for ourselves recently, and it can be easily £1,000 to £1,500 a day for training, and that's classroom training, not one-to-one. Me and Lou went to something recently with about 1,000 other people, and it was £300 each for one day. So actually, training to be a driving instructor is pretty cheap, really, and you know, the school scheme of things when you consider when you've got to buy a car and everything else. But of course, if you haven't got £200,000, it's quite a lot of money. But it's not. It sounds a lot, but it's not that much, because what they make money on is your franchise. You know, independent instructors like me don't. That's why we charge a higher hourly rate, because there's no back end. You know, if you go to a school that's looking to charge you a franchise, then they look at the longer picture, and they can do, you know, 50, 60 hours training for £1,000, because they're going to hopefully get 100, £150 a week off you or whatever for the next 2, 3, 4 years, or whatever the average is. So they've got a back end. So you're not paying at the front end, but you're paying at the back end, which isn't bad. I recommend people go on a franchise, but it's really important you don't tie yourself into any sort of contract, because what happens is they don't want to give you basically free training, because they lose. You know, each training company that is cheap will lose £2,000 to £2,500 on each person they take on, because of the cost of training, paying the trainers, and a lot of these people are employed as well with the big companies that get sick pay and all that sort of stuff. So they're making a loss, so they've got to get the money back, haven't they? That's what business is about. So they will tie you into a contract. So quite often, the cheaper it gets, the more the contracts get dodgy. So all I would say is the cheaper it is, no such thing as a free lunch. Please do look at the contracts. Some will tie you into up to 5 years on a franchise. Certainly, I know of a localish large school who it basically costs about, you know, up to £50,000 to get out of the contract. So be very, very aware of things like that. Get a solicitor to look at it, system advice. It'd be worth 50, £100 for a solicitor to have a look over it, because it could cost you a lot more in the long run. So just be careful of cheap prices, because things that tend to be cheap don't last very long and don't necessarily do the in the long run. So, for example, you'll get on Facebook people saying, "Does anyone know a local cheap instructor?" That's fine, but what do you mean by cheap? Do you mean cheap, the price to get the license, or cheap per hour? Because they're not the same thing. Cheap per hour doesn't always necessarily mean cheap to get the license. In this case, the green badge can be, but you know, think of it in a logical way. If they're cheap, there's got to be a payback somewhere. You know, we're all in this for business. We're not a charity. We do it because we love it, but there is going to be a payback. So just be aware of that, really. So I think that's probably the main things. There's your options there. Skip through them a bit, but you can go through them. I would say that I'm not going to recommend any, but what I would say is definitely think about the pay as you train. Definitely think of your get out clauses. Definitely ask how many people in the car. Definitely get to meet the trainer, not the salesperson. Ask lots of questions. You know, can I talk to 5 people that have been through your services in the last year? Can I have their email addresses, phone calls, phone numbers, things like that? Because they shouldn't have a problem given to you. They will give you all the old normal stuff, you know, data protection and stuff, which is absolutely fair enough. But I know that if I asked any of my previous trainees over the last year, they wouldn't have a problem at all with me passing on their information. I would check with them first, of course. So the trainer might say, "Well, can I get back to you because I have to check," which is absolutely fine. You want them to do the same for you, wouldn't you? So that's not a problem. But if they say, "Oh no, I can't do that," then I would be thinking, why not? You know, there's no real reason why that couldn't happen. So just ask lots of questions. Be a pain. You know, be a pain. The other thing that I'm no expert on this, so please don't take my advice 100% on this, but I believe if you pay for things on credit card, you've got much more chance of getting your money back, for example. So do consider paying by credit card, or check your credit card company that's the case, because you may well be able to get money back if there is a problem in the future. But I'm not a financial expert, so please don't take that as gospel. It's just something to consider. There was a case recently, I was reading yesterday, about people paying for something on card and be able to get their money back, but they couldn't get that money back before. So not relevant to this industry, but something else. So I know that is potentially an option. I know you should pay for flights and things like that on credit cards, because you've got insurance within that payment, if you like. So that's just worth considering, really. Just be a pain. Just ask lots of questions. But I would also, tomorrow we're going to talk about getting started. So we'll do it tomorrow again at 7 o'clock and doing getting started, and that will include, basically, don't sign anything till you get started. Get your CRB done. Start studying for your Part 1. Get some free advice. We have lots of free stuff on our site about Part 1, etc. Get that started. Get into it first, and then look at who you go with for training and stuff. But there is an awful lot of independent trainers out there. There's a lot of people that just want to grow their business. And if you go with someone who's trying to grow their business and they just want 1 or 2 people, then they're going to really have your interest in heart. If you're one of 1,000, may or may not be the case. But certainly if you go to a localist person and they're a trainer, or if not a trainer, they tend to be backed by someone like me. Ask them, who's training you, how's it going? When the system changes, hopefully it will change in August, September, October this year. It'll be a lot easier for independent trainers to help you, because the Part 3 is a very specialised field and you have to really know how it works. Whereas when it changes, it won't be specialised, it will be pupil based. You will be able to go out with your trainer in their car, potentially teaching their pupils while they observe you, watching their pupils, that type of thing, and that's going to be a lot easier. So that's also something to be aware of. The system may well change in the next few months, but we're hoping that if you start the new system, you'll be able to take it in the way it is at the moment, or the new way. You'll get a choice, but that again isn't 100% certain at the moment. So lots of options there. The first thing to do is, do your research, chat around, go to the test centre, ask people. I certainly was speaking to someone a few years ago now who phoned me up and said, I stopped 6 instructors who were at McDonald's or Greg's or wherever, parked in the car park, and I just tapped on the window and said, I'm thinking about coming to drive instructor. What do you think? Who would you go with? And all 6 said my name in that area. So he said, thought about giving you a call. So that's a bit of easy research, isn't it? Even phone up some driving instructors off Facebook, etc., and ask them how would they do it if they did it again. Who would they go with? That type of thing. But ultimately, the decision is always yours. Right, I've got some questions coming, or some statements. I'm not sure yet. So let's have a quick look. If I drive under someone else's license as a PDI, do I have to take their name on too? Yeah, absolutely. As a PDI, you can't advertise on your own. There's a bit of debate about this. I'm sure I'm going to get some emails, but as I understand it, and I certainly wouldn't put any advertising at all, not business cards with your number on, anything. Everything has to go through that other business. Not a problem. Again, we haven't got this one down, but actually I'm going to put it on the bottom of the list and put pink license. I'm going to do one on that, because I think that's an interesting subject on its own. Whether it's useful, whether it's a good thing, bad thing. I think it'd be a lot more useful once a new system comes in. At the moment, it can be a bit confusing, but we'll do a separate talk on that, in a few days when we do that. But yeah, you have to trade under their name. Excuse my finger coming across, but I have to do this. Hi, Blaine, it's Stacey, only 19 years old. Just wanted to let you know I sent off for my DBS today and ordered the ADI Theory Practice CD. Looking forward to. I don't know if it will show me the rest of it. That's the problem. I don't know how to get the rest of it up, Stacey, I'm afraid. That's all I can see at the moment. Yeah, we've got Theory Test Pro as well. So if you put in blaine.theorytestpro.co.uk, I think it is, then you can join there and you can practice there. That's quite good, because it notices the ones you're getting errors on or getting wrong, and it will bring those ones up again. But please don't learn by rote, as we said yesterday. Please use the essential skills. Please have a look at our site, our new site, driving-instructor.site. There's some free stuff on there for theory, for sure. Telling you, going through the essential skills and tying that into the theory, tying that into the part 2, because that's important. It's important that you tie all that together, because the point of the theory is to have you driving, part of the point of driving is to have you teaching. And they all go together. When I teach people, I teach it all together as a package, not individually. Okay, hi, I've just done my part 3 second time and failed again. In my last attempt now. Yep. Finding the core comps hard. What we're going to do is we're going to do a talk in a few days' time on tips for part 3. It were general tips, but also because of our site, we have a lot of people in your situation. I will make that quite in depth on part 3 and the pitfalls people fall into and where they go wrong. That's probably. There's 4 times, so probably towards the end of next week. But keep an eye on the page, and I will tell you when that one's coming up. Do you know part 3 test will be changing? Not sure at the moment. Last I heard was in the autumn. Autumn is anywhere between August, isn't it? Probably September and October, November. Not holding my breath. We've been asking questions quite a lot and not got the responses yet about, will you be able to take the old one and the new one at the same time? Because, for example, if you've been training for 23 months or something, and then on the 1st of October they change the new system and the old system's not available, that's not fair, because it's going to be completely different. Where training's interesting, people are saying to me now, look, should I be training for the new system, the old system? But the bottom line is, the old system's still there at the moment. You should train for the old system. But I would be, if you're with a trainer that's doing learners, be sitting in the back of learners as well, to get an idea, one, of what it's like to teach real learners, which is completely different, and two, to actually go out and be seeing what happens, because then if it changes, you'll have some ideas of how it's all going to work and things. But at the moment, because we don't know until there's an announcement, and I will let you know as soon as I know, that I would train for the old system at the moment and not worry about the new one, because sometimes these things just don't happen. I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but we're sort of in a flux at the moment with the site, because we don't want to put up loads of new content. We were going to do like a step-by-step course for the part 3. But there's not a lot of point in me filming all that if they're going to change it, and then it won't be of any use, and we know what we have on their works anyway at the moment. Yeah, so that's great. So tomorrow we'll do tomorrow evening as well. It won't be every day at 7 because I'm not always available, but tomorrow I'm available at 7. So that's getting started. No, it's not. It's being the right person. So we'll talk. I did one only a week ago, so about that. But I think because it's a series, it's worth putting together. So being the right person, make sure you've got the right attitude, approach, and things like that. And we'll probably combine. I think we'll do both together. We'll do that and getting started. So how to start the process. I know all you guys on here at the moment have already started the process, but this is like going to a library for people to watch later. So I'll talk on there about actually the process, sending off your CRB and all that sort of stuff, which won't take very long, and you can follow it online quite easily. But it's just worth talking about that. And then the following ones will be tips on part 1, tips on part 2, tips on part 3. They'll be based on newish people, but they'll also be based on the people that are on tonight that are struggling with those things, so you can get some good ideas of what you should be doing. And then we'll talk about PIC licenses, I think. So that should take, there's a few there, so we'll probably finish these by probably this time next week. We're trying to do them each night, but some nights I won't be able to do just because of doing other stuff, diving. Not me diving, by the way. My son diving and stuff like that. So, okay, so if there's no more questions, I will go and let you get on with your Sunday evening. I'm off to watch the snooker. Bye-bye.